The Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food strikes again, protecting people from themselves because, heaven forbid, somebody should voluntarily decide to drink raw milk. Raw milk, that is unpasteurized milk, is illegal to buy and sell in Ontario, but that hasn't stopped Michael Schmidt and his farming crew from defying this blatant violation of self-ownership and property rights. But when one goes up against petty government bureaucrats, you can expect these wealth-destroying paper pushers to come back with armed police goons. 20 officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Finance, as well as local police, who didn't bother questioning their orders, raided the Durham, Ontario farm, stealing equipment and computers. Now, fortunately, members of the farm share property showed up and they demanded the bureaucrats and police cease and desist. There was a complete standoff, Schmidt said. Finally, the farm share members negotiated a deal that everything stays here and they're leaving. Schmidt's Farming Collective produces a raw milk product and it distributes it to its members. It's all voluntary. The consumers know exactly what they're getting, and so there's no fraud involvement, and so there's no reason for the Ontario government to get involved. End of story. I was never hiding what we were doing, he said. I was always of the opinion that we need to sit down with the government to establish a regular scheme that allows people to have their own cows and that they get uninterrupted the milk from their own cows. Schmidt has been fighting this battle for years, so perhaps eventually he's going to realize that there is no sitting down with governments to establish rational rules and regulations. The state is, by definition, a parasitical institution on society. They aren't protecting health and safety. They are systematic property expropriators, and nowhere is this more obvious than this raid on a privately owned farm. The Ontario government says that raw milk poses a significant risk to public health, but there is no evidence that Schmidt's farm has ever caused anyone to get sick. In fact, he maintains that there are enormous health benefits from unprocessed milk. And indeed, the processed GMO crap in the corporate grocery stores is really the bigger risk to public health. But don't try to convince the government of that. There are too many special interests involved with maintaining the status quo over our food supply. And that's the real reason that the Schmidt's farm was raided. It's not about public health. It's about keeping the dairy cartel profitable while criminalizing small farmers. And to top off how illegitimate this raid was, consider that Ontario doesn't actually ban the consumption of raw milk if you produce it yourself. That's why Schmidt's farm is a collective. People buy shares and they become owners themselves. So therefore, he's not selling raw milk, he's just distributing it to his private property owners. But the government's always just changed the rules of the game in order to suit their own interests. So there is no private property in Canada, and certainly not in Ontario. Instead of worrying about more important issues, such as reducing business, destroying red tape so entrepreneurs can repair the damage the McGuinty Wynne regime have created, instead of actual issues that could be investigated, Ontario's bureaucrats would rather focus on an innocent dairy farmer producing what his customers want. This is tyranny, folks. It may not be the intense prosecution that Russian and Chinese farmers faced under the communist regimes, but it's the same principle that disregards individual choice and private property, and eventually we'll all end up in the same place. A system where all food production is in the hands of a few, and small farmers and local farmer markets are deemed hazardous to public health and safety. Because for some reason, government bureaucrats know more about your body and your tastes and preferences than you do. Thanks for watching, guys. Click the like button if you found this info useful. Check the link in the description for all the sources to this video. And stay tuned, guys. We got more videos coming soon to pressfortruth.ca.